It's Jack Olesker with episode 41 and no smile. So it's kind of a dark episode. First off, as Kim just pointed out to me, I'm completely sweaty. You have caught me shortly after my workout. That's a good thing to start out with, something real positive for this episode, because there's going to be plenty of downer stuff. But Jack's tip jar, exercise, okay? It's really important. It's really good for you. If you're young and you're exercising, keep it up. If you don't exercise, start it. If you're old and you haven't been exercising, pick it back up again. Tony Horton's P90X workout, oh gosh, how grueling, but I knocked it out once. And in the middle of one of his workouts, he looks to camera and he says, aging is for those who don't know any better. So you see me looking like this because I'm on my weight bench with heavy weights 3 days a week, and I'm on my treadmill for my weight bench for an hour 3 days a week, and I'm on my treadmill 2 days a week for 30 minutes. Anyway, exercise, it's important and it's good for you. So let's get back to episode 41. And like I said, there was something in the air, and I've got a pretty good antenna, and I smelled this coming. And I kind of knew for a long time that I wasn't gonna retire from DIC after 30 years. It just wasn't for me. I knew it wasn't going to be the place for me, and it was okay. I had a nice run there. So there was always two camps. There was always Andy and Michael Maliani, his guy, and then he brought in Robbie London. And, for Jean, there was Bernard Dries. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. And all the artists at KKNC, C&D in Tokyo, and I was his top writer that he brought in. And there were these two camps, and Lincoln was right. A house divided against itself cannot stand, okay? But we accomplished a lot of amazing things. But, DIC started out as a French company, and when it came over to America, all of a sudden it was getting all these American shows, and it kind of became an American company. And Andy was the driving force for it. And we knew something was in the air. And one day they took us over to their new beautiful headquarters in Burbank that they were going to move into. And we got a tour of it. And then the following day, I get called to Andy's office, and I walk in there, and Robbie London is there. And we had about a 20-hour meeting, and Robbie did not say one single word, okay? So Andy tells me, I'm sorry to tell you, Jack, you're not going to be going with us to the new offices. We have to terminate you. He says, I bought the company from Jean. They did a leveraged buyout with Bear Stearns. And they bought the company from Jean. You don't have to feel sorry for Jean, okay? I don't talk money, but believe me, he did okay. He ended up with a castle in the south of France. He had a partner, Radio Luxembourg, I think owned 52%, but Jean did really well in the buyout. But a lot of Jean's guys got cut, and the writers that Robbie brought in, they stayed. And I don't say that with any animosity. It's like they said in The Godfather, it's only business. He had his group, and Jean had his group, and, I just happened to end up in the wrong camp. I don't think it was anything I did. I made a number of gaffes, in the last month, and I think I subconsciously made them because I knew this was coming, and I knew I was going to get cut. And, I like to do everything with a sense of style and make everything into a big production. So I made those gaffes, and Andy and I kind of went back and forth. I told him I'd take a salary cut. He says, no, it's not about that. And I understood it. So I went back to my office, and, I could have opened up on Andy and said, you know, I was here. I was one of the first writers when you guys were over a beauty shop, and I made so much money for the company with all the scripts that I wrote. Believe me, they were getting a lot more than whatever our script fees were for the scripts, you know, what the broadcasters were paying. But I didn't do that. And this is another good tip for you. Great is the art of knowing how to leave. I sat down, and let me tell you, I was crushed, okay? I had been with DIC for 6 years, and I loved my job. I loved being a staff writer. I loved working with all of my writers. I loved being a story editor. It was exciting going to Mattel and flying out to Hasbro and Lego up in Hartford. I loved all that. And it really hurt me. But I wrote a memo to Andy, and I said, you know, it hurts me that I'm not going with you, but I understand. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you for everything that you taught me. Andy Hayward taught me how to write a series Bible. I didn't know how to write a series Bible before then. I was a novelist, okay? John picked me up, threw me into it, said, go ahead, start writing Littles episodes. Well, I'm a quick study. But Andy showed me the step-by-step process. And he took me to business meetings. And I think he saw something in me that was different from the other writers. He knew my background, mercantile history in the clothing business, and I think he respected that. And I sent him that email, and I said, inter-office memo. I said, Andy, it's with a heavy heart that I'm not going with you, but I just want you to know how grateful I am. And I sent it inter-office. And I started clearing out my desk and loading everything up into the stereotypical archive boxes. And about half an hour later, there's a knock at the door, and the door opens, and Andy looks in, and he's got the memo envelope in his hand, and he looks at me, and he says, that was class. And that's all he said, and he left. And I thought, you know, I did the right thing. I didn't burn a bridge, and I thanked somebody sincerely from the bottom of my heart for everything that he did for me. And it was rough, you know, the first week. When you're used to the phones ringing all the time, and you're used to people around you all the time, it's really rough to go into radio silence. And about 2 weeks after I got terminated, I'm at home, and I get a phone call from this fella that says that he's the story editor for the new DIC show, the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and that he was instructed by Andy Hayward to have me write episodes for the show. You could have knocked me over with a proverbial leaf. And I went into the office, and, you know, they greeted me very respectfully. They said they know my credentials. They were looking forward to working with me. I think I wrote 4 or 5 episodes of Super Mario Brothers. And I don't know if Andy knew it at the time, but I needed that so badly. Look, I needed it because I spent every dime I ever made, okay? I didn't have anything saved up. But it was more than the money. Andy gave me a bridge to the next chapter in my life. And you know, I've said to all of you before, it's important to have a mentor. And I've got 3 in my life, and I don't mind naming them. Jean Chalopin, who started DIC, Haim Saban, who owned Power Rangers, and he owns about 17% of the world nowadays, and Andy Hayward. And if you get the right mentor, they're going to teach you a lot. But there's something else that the right mentor can do. If you get the right mentor, they are caring about you and they are compassionate. And Andy's one of the toughest SOBs in the world when it comes to business. He's got a reputation of being a really tough businessman, but always fair. And I think he'd blush a little bit if he heard me calling him, I hope he does hear me calling him compassionate and caring, but he is. What kind of a man fires somebody for just a business reason because he's not a part of the team, and then turns around 2 weeks later and throws him a lifeline to keep his head above the water? I'll tell you what kind of guy does that. Andy Hayward does that. And that's why after 40 years, Andy and I still exchange emails. We chat back and forth with each other. We wish each other the best. I always send him a Thanksgiving email telling him how grateful I am for all that he taught me. And my other two mentors, Jean Chalopin and Haim Saban, in future episodes, you'll see that at another time in my life when I needed it, they were there for me. Taught me so much as mentors about the business. Haim, my gosh, what I learned from that man by osmosis about the business of business. Jean Chalopin about the creative elements. Both of them taught me all of that. But beyond that, both of them shared one thing with Andy. They were compassionate and they were caring. And at a time when I needed them to be, just like Andy was, they also were. And we'll look at that in future episodes. And now I turn the page on my chapters at DIC. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to go to the next phase of the golden years of television, the age of television animation, and my involvement in it. And believe me, just because I've left DIC, I'm not about to stop. I still got a lot of ammo in my belt, and I'm going to show you how it works as an independent writer who would become someday an independent producer. Because the one thing Andy left me with when he left my office, he said, Jack, you're not going to believe it when I'm telling you now, but you're not the kind of guy that was made to be working for somebody else. I thought he was trying to just lift my spirits a little bit. But 40 years later, man, he nailed it. I hope you get that kind of mentor in your life. See you in the next episode. Subscribe and like us. Take care, everyone.